Good morning, everyone. We will get started here in just 1 minute. Good morning, and thank you for joining us for this webinar on supporting students' basic needs. We appreciate your time this morning. We know how busy you are as you try to manage the challenges related to this pandemic, and we appreciate you tuning in to learn more about this important topic. And over the past year or two, colleges have come to realize just how important it is to serve students' basic needs. And now that's more important than ever. We've learned that students can't learn if they can't feed their families, get to and from school, and have a safe place to stay. And now their lives are in upheaval related to COVID-19 and the coronavirus. And so thank you for tuning in today and listening to the experiences of a couple of colleges that have been on the forefront of serving students' basic needs and learning how they have changed their processes to continue to serve students in this very challenging time. So our presenters today are Cara Crowley, the Vice President of Strategic Initiatives from Amarillo College, Lisa Black, the Director of the Student Advocacy Center at Northwest Vista College at Alamo, Pamela Frias, the Interim Director of Student Success at San Antonio College, and then Debi Gaitan, the Vice President for Student Success at Northwest Vista College. Our format today will be presentations by both colleges, and then followed by a Q&A. So we've left plenty of time for questions and answers. So please type your questions into the Q&A block and we will answer those concluding the presentations. The webinar materials will be available later today on the Texas Association Community College website on the events page. We will post the slides immediately following the webinar and then the recording later this afternoon. And speaking of the webpage, I wanted to bring your attention to a couple things that you might find helpful. So on the TAC homepage, you will see a link in the menu bar for COVID-19 updates. Here you'll find information for higher education, including updates such as the coordinating board resources page and information from SAC-COC. And then in the resources section, you'll find things such as the Center for Disease Control and Prevention resources for higher education. Then on the Texas Success Center page, we have a couple of new pages, including remote support. And this includes resources that are Texas-based, like 211 Texas, the information about how students can find free and low-cost internet, and then resources available nationally. And we are looking to grow this page. And so if you have found resources that work well at your institution, please send those directly to me. I'm Christy Short, the director of the Texas Success Center. My email is kshort@tac.org. Similarly, we have a page for resources related to remote learning, and feel free to peruse that page. If you have any additional resources you'd like to share, then please send those to me as well. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Cara to tell us about her experiences at Amarillo College.
Good morning, everyone. Oops. So my name is Cara Crowley. I'm the Vice President of Strategic Initiatives at Amarillo College. And I'm just going to talk to you about how we are implementing kind of revised procedures while still continuing to embrace our culture of caring here at AC. So as most of y'all know, we have a really clear theory of change at the college. We're going to remove a life barrier and accelerated learning environment through a deep culture of caring, so through a deep sense of love for our students and our employees, and that'll equal completion. Now more than ever, we're going to have to embrace this theory of change. We're all having to move to a different learning environment, and our students are really going to need us. I think the biggest thing as we embrace this is we all need to make decisions in a rapid environment, and we need to stay firm to our decisions because we know what we're doing is in the best interest of our students. And it's easy in moments like this to question ourselves, but I think if we put our students first and we really embrace them, support them, and know that our students need us to love them now more than ever, we're going to make it through this together. So at Amarillo College, we have really clear values. We believe in caring through wow, innovation, family, fun, and yes. And as I was building this presentation, I really got struck by how important these values are going to be as we move forward, particularly yes. Students are going to need us to step up, say yes, help them. Amarillo is a service-based economy, which means most of our students work 2 jobs in the hotel or food industry, both of which are going to take massive financial impact over the next few months. And so they're really going to need us to step up and help them. We need them to stay in school. We need them to graduate. We need them to help rebuild the economy. So we need to make sure we are always finding a yes for them. And also at the same time, we need to embrace these values for our employees. It's equally important for them to see how they are helping our students, how they are embracing yes, because at the end of the day, we're all part of the Amarillo College family. So how are we actually doing this? I'm going to talk about our Advocacy and Resource Center in a few moments with our food pantry and emergency aid. But one of the things that we're doing for our Career Center is it's 100% remote now. Students will be able to work with our Career Center through video conferencing. The Career Center already had a cloud system-based system, so it was pretty easy for them to transition to this. We're not doing any on-site recruiting, but we're going to continue to help students build their resume, do mock interviews, help them seek jobs, because they're going to need this as we transition. Our counseling center, which I think is going to be incredibly important. You can read all kind of research that's coming out on how the coronavirus is going to really impact students who already have anxiety or some mental health needs. We really need to step up and help them. We're also going to have to help employees as they move into a at-home work environment, so they're not having that same type of social engagement. So for us, our Careers Counseling Center, students will be able to access it one of 3 ways. Video conference system with the counselors. They will be able to do online therapy assistance, and then a nonprofit institution out of Washington, D.C. called the Steve Fund has free counseling services for minority students. And so it's really important for us to continue and expand our counseling offerings. Our legal aid clinic will continue to operate. We won't do seminars for students or for the community, but we'll continue to connect our students to attorneys in town that are providing pro bono work. So one of the biggest changes for us has been with our Advocacy and Resource Center. We have a commitment to remain open with this center, but we have changed some of our procedures. Number one, our social workers will continue to connect with students, just no direct face-to-face interaction. So we're going to do it phone, email, or video conferencing. And how we're doing video conferencing is we'll continue to have facilities on campus that will have computers and internet access. So we have designated selected offices where students can go in these offices and call our social workers or connect with them on video conferencing, because it's really going to be important to connect them to the community resources as well as our campus resources at this time. With us pausing our classes and moving them to a tech environment, tech-supported environment, our financial aid is going to be delayed a week. And so students are really going to come in and need a lot of assistance from our social workers. So one of the things that we've done over the last couple of weeks is worked with our nonprofits to find out what their protocol is. So how are they going to change their business services over the next week, month, a couple of months, so that we are not continuing to delay those services for our students when we connect them. And so it's taken a lot of time, but we know their protocol now, so we know how we can connect our students in a seamless fashion and not get lost in bureaucracy and red tape, because that just hinders the time of service for our students. Our food pantry, we've made a commitment that we're going to continue services for our food pantry. We have done a lot of changes to it though. We will start the food pantry in the new system next week. We have pre-bagged all food, and so all campuses in Amarillo will come to one central location, and then our rural campuses will continue their systems. But students will come in, and we have a spacing system where they will access one door, and then a spacing system to keep them 6 feet apart so that we meet the CDC guidelines. And rather than twice a month for food pantry, we're going to go ahead and move that to once a week, because it's really important for us to continue to provide food for our students. We have a high number, about 50% of our students are food insecure, so it's incredibly important for us to connect them to services. Our concern as we go forward, probably like most of y'all, is what are we going to do if there is delay in food delivery? And so we have set up a system with internal staff on how we can access food through our grocery stores here. But it has taken some logistics moves, because as the campus continues to limit staff on campus, we have to think through the logistics of food delivery and other aspects, but it's imperative for you to continue your food pantry. Just rethink your services. So for us, it's really important to just bag services or bag food, but they'll still have access to hygiene products, which are pre-bagged, as well as if they need diapers or formula, those are also pre-bagged. We have created a student resource list that is on our website. We are putting this resource list into every food bag that we send out. We are sending communication to all of the students that have accessed our ARC over the last year. It's really important to get in the hands of students what these resources are out in our community. So it's not just a resource list for what happens with Amarillo College, but also the nonprofits in town. So how can we connect them to the nonprofits that assist them with transportation or with utility, with housing particularly? And so all of those resources are on a 2-sheet page to assist them. I know that Christy has posted that on the TAC website, so you could use that as a guide to help as you are developing your own resource list. Every time it gets updated, we're going to update our website and continually send out that communication to our students so that they have knowledge of how not only Amarillo College can help them, but our Amarillo community. Emergency aid. This is going to be critical as we move forward. We are going to transition our emergency aid for the time being to try and focus predominantly on meeting food and housing insecurity needs. Our local utilities, water, gas, and electric, have all suspended disconnect notices. However, we know students will accumulate large bills, and so we anticipate in a month or two we're going to have a lot of students that are going to come to us to help, ask for help with these costs, and we're going to step up and we're going to help them because we need them to stay in school. And so we will continue our emergency aid as is, with just a slight change. However, any student that comes to our social workers that has a request outside of this that is in need, we have a system where we can make those on a case-by-case basis on approval. One of the other changes we've done with our emergency aid is we have given authority to our Director of Social Services to pay the third-party vendor with her Amarillo College credit card. As we transition to a work environment home, it is going to delay the processing of checks at Amarillo College. We're committed to doing it in a week. It's just going to be incredibly difficult for us to meet that 24-hour check that we used to. And so to accommodate that, we are transitioning to a credit card payment system for those third-party vendors. Another thing is we're doing at the college is looking for internet connectivity for our students. The FCC had the major broadband broadcast companies sign a pledge, the Keep Americans Connected program. And what that program does is they will not disconnect, and they'll waive late fees for home internet services over the next few months in order to support the COVID crisis. And so for us, these are the companies that are located in my area. AT&T has a program called AT&T Access, and for any student that is on SNAP, TANF, or Medicaid, it is $10 a month for internet services. No charge for installation. In fact, we helped a student this week get connected to that. It took her 30 minutes on the phone to get connected, and they mailed out her installation packet so that she could connect herself at home. Suddenlink, which is Altus USA, is providing free internet services until May 16th for K through 12 and college households if you do not already have the service. And so if you do not have this service, you can get the Advantage 30 broadband. They are doing free installation charges until March 31st for colleges. They're doing free installation for K through 12 through the entire time. So I would certainly ask students if they have any K through 12 children in their household, and I would go under that option rather than the college option, just to get past that free installation. There's also a website called Everyone On that can assist households determine what internet providers are in their zip code. So for those of y'all that are outside my service area, that's a really good resource for you to determine what's available in your area, and then figure out what their program is in correspondence to the Keep Americans Connected pledge. As we navigate kind of the unknown, I think one of the most important things we need to do is we've got to be the change. We need to step up for our students. We need to love them to success. And as I tell my staff, it's really important that we walk in grace right now, right? We need to walk in grace with ourselves. We need to walk in grace for others, but we have to be the change. We have to step up and support our students. They need us now more than ever. And we've got to love them and honor them and know that we're going to make missteps, and that's okay. We're always going to put our students on the forefront, and that's one of the most important things we could do for them and for our institutions and our community. So I am going to hand it back to Christy, and then we'll have Q&A at the end.
Thank you, Cara. And for our participants, please continue to add your questions to the Q&A block, and we will address those shortly. At this point, I would like to turn it over to our presenters from Alamo colleges, Lisa, Pamela, and Debi.
Good morning, everyone. This is Debi Gaitan, and Lisa, Pam, and I are Zooming from 3 different locations here in Alamo colleges. So Lisa has agreed to be our driver for the PowerPoint so that we're not trying to share our screens from 3 different locations. So while she's bringing that up, I'm going to go ahead and get us started. Or let me do this. Let me give her just a minute to bring the presentation up.
Okay, so while we're waiting, I'll go ahead and ask this question that came in for Cara. So Cara, how did Amarillo notify students of virtual therapy if they weren't using it before COVID-19? Did you use the website, email, or text, or another method?
So we've done multiple communications. We have, we send out a college-wide email through our marketing and communications. We send out a communication through our Advocacy and Resource Center, which 35% of our students access the ARC. So we use that. And then we've sent out communication to our existing students that have access counseling services. It's also located on our website. So we're constantly trying to stay in communication. One of the things we are going to do is one of our social workers, her responsibility while she is working from home is she will be calling every single one of the students that have accessed ARC services to explain some of our changes. We're using, because she has a personal cell phone, we're using Google Voice to run her cell phone through so that it's not her personal cell phone that will show when she calls to students. I think that's a good safety measure for our own staff. And so, but it's really important that you're thinking about multiple ways that you can connect with students for communication. We are also going to look at using our CRM to implement texting as well, so that we can just kind of get information to them on multiple levels. They need ongoing support and communication from us, and it's just going to have to be in a variety of ways.
Thank you, Cara. And keep your questions coming in the box, and we will get to those shortly. So Lisa, if you could change your view to the slideshow view, it looks like we're seeing the presenter view. If you wanted to take just a moment and change that view, maybe you have double screens and you could share your other screen, maybe that would help. Yeah, you should see go to slideshow. It's in the center of that menu that you have up there at the top. There you go. Yeah, I think it must be on double monitors. I'm happy to show it from my end if you like.
That would be great, Christy. Thank you.
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you, Lisa. We all have double monitors, and that does happen from time to time. Thank y'all for your help. Perfect. 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 Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. And if I could ask Christy to back up just a bit. Thank you so much. So the beginning of this slide pretty much says it all. And thank you, Cara, for all of your information. I look forward to the Q&A and learning more about what Amarillo is doing. We were joking the other day about, from Amarillo to Alamo, the state of Texas is large, as y'all know, and for all of us to be able to be working together to share best practices and to kind of hold hands across Texas and the nation right now, I think it's really a big part of what is taking place. And what I love about the opportunity to share today is the things that Cara spoke about and things that Lisa and Pam and I are going to discuss. They're not things that we do in light of COVID-19. It's things that we do every day in light of what our communities are facing on a daily basis. And COVID just expands the necessity of what we do. So we think about this from everything comes after food, shelter, and clothing, even college. And sometimes that's hard in higher ed for us to get our head around. It's got to be about making an A. It's got to be about being a full-time student. It's got to be about making a decision on your future career. And for so many of our students in San Antonio, which is one of the most segregated economic and socioeconomic and housing city in the nation, we're usually 1 or 2 in the nation in our economic segregation. It's about food, shelter, and clothing. And if we can't help them satisfy the basic needs to be a healthy and thriving human being, most certainly college is going to be very difficult for them to manage. We'll go to the next one. So I want to talk a little bit about the Alamo colleges. We participate in a survey that is called the HOPE survey, and it is out of the Wisconsin survey lab. We have 33,000 students that participate in the HOPE survey, and some of you may be participants of that. And this is a little bit of the information that we find about the 5 colleges here in Alamo. So we've got 60% of our students that are telling us that they're housing insecure, 70% of the students that have been homeless. And what's amazing is 5% of those students are not utilizing any of the housing benefits that are available to them in and around the city. And then most importantly, when we look at our students in coming to school, is 48% of them are saying that they are food insecure. We'll go to the next one. So I also wanted to share a little bit about Alamo. So Alamo is quite unique in the state of Texas. We are 5 independently accredited colleges. The Dallas County is the only other community college district in Texas. So what that means is there's 5 colleges in San Antonio that are independently accredited. So we are 5 individual colleges that then work together. We have a shared board and we had some shared funding. So when you look at something like 100,000 students enrolled in the Alamo Colleges district, we vary from an institution that is at about 5,000 to 6,000 students to an institution that is over 20,000 students and colleges that are somewhere in between. What also makes us very unique is we have institutions that are one that is about 10 years old and an institution that is over 100 years old. We are all Hispanic serving institutions, and we have a college that is also a historically Black college and university, St. Philip's College. So we have a lot of variations and differences that make each of the 5 colleges very unique, from a small college to a mid-size, to a large, to a very large. We're resourced in different ways. Our structure is somewhat similar. We do the best we can to create a very consistent, forward-facing organization to our students so that they can take advantage of all 5 of our colleges. They don't have to feel like they only have one community college in San Antonio. They have all 5. So we work together and we also work independently, and it's just phenomenal the way those dynamics have helped us to be a national leading organization. We have 300 plus certificates and programs, and we are, as a district, we offered last cycle over 12,000 degrees and certificates to our students. I want to give you a little bit of an understanding of how we are 5 colleges and very diverse, in hopes that as questions arise, you would know that if you're a smaller college or a larger or an extra large, feel free to ask us questions because we've got them all here in Alamo. Go to the next slide. I want to talk a little bit about what we consider to be a sustainability community partnership. We also refer to this as our ecosystem. And this is just a portion of our ecosystem. We have many other components. And I thought for the sake of today, this is probably busy enough and that we would spend a little bit of time talking about and leading into the advocacy work and the focus of the discussion, but to lay a little bit of a foundation for who we are first. So as we look at our ecosystem, we have things like in blue, you're going to see Alamo Institutes, which is our guided pathways model. Alamo Advise, we have a case managed advising model, assigned case managed model. We have our Student Advocacy and Resource Center, which we're going to spend quite a bit of time today talking about. We have our Alamo Experience, which is our co-curricular and experiential learning, counseling, financial coaching, tutoring. We also have added recently our faculty mentoring model. And we are all in partnership with our San Antonio Food Bank, with our SA Works, which helps with our students to find viable competitive jobs in San Antonio, our transportation system, which provides free bus services to all of our students. We have a data sharing partnership with UPS so that the K through 12 system, the community college district, our university system can all be working together to identify the needs of our students early and keep them supported throughout the entire pipeline so they don't have to keep telling their story over and over. We can help support them all through their education experience. The UT healthcare system, which also partners with us on many of our support services, and our housing development program here in San Antonio, which is the San Antonio Housing Authority. So I wanted to just give you a brief idea of some of the partnerships that we have in our advocacy work. What it is, when we look at this ecosystem, we consider ourselves to be, these organizations are anchored along with us in San Antonio, that when things like COVID, which is just something we have never experienced a pandemic in most of our lifetimes, but when we've had hurricanes and when we've had some other things that have taken place in and around our country, we anchor ourselves into our community and they look to us. So while others are kind of stepping away and having to move back, these are the organizations that step forward, along with our police and our first responders and our medical systems. We all become part of this live ecosystem to keep our city safe and supported. I want you to look at that Maslow's hierarchy of needs before we go to the next slide, because this is something that Lisa Black is helping us across our district to understand, that we have to take care of those fundamental needs of our students before we can start moving into those lifelong learning experiences. And so when we're building our sustainable model, we are building it for degrees and we are building it for credentials and economic mobility in San Antonio, because that is at our core of what we do. But we have to build upon the fact that our students have food and they have shelter and they have safety and they have clothing and they have childcare and they have transportation. And so we really have to build that hierarchy around what matters most to our students so that their minds can be free to learn. And we'll go to the next one. And I'm going to let Lisa and Pam, if y'all could pick up here to talk a little bit about the core services that we have been offering in our advocacy work and how COVID-19 has helped us to transition to continue our services, but in a different way.
Everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you so much. I'll just sort of set the stage and give you guys a sense of our life cycle and how we got where we are. And then Pamela's going to talk deeply about the core services, both pre and where we are today. Amarillo College, you heard Cara a few minutes ago, the loving, supportive frame that they view their students is also how they view their colleagues. And I'll tell you that Amarillo was really wonderful to us when we got started in fall of 2016. We did a visit And at Alamo colleges, the two colleges that started first were Palo Alto College and San Antonio College. And I think, Christy gave us some guidance around, there are different size institutions, folks who have different amounts of resources. I like to always say that we started at San Antonio College with spit and duct tape, and zero budget, but a space to run and be creative and inventive, and an administration that supported that kind of reckless abandon. It was new work for us, this idea of how do we meet these students' basic needs and support them across not just what's happening in the classroom where we focused ourselves forever, but to begin to explore, a lot of the stuff that's happening with students that takes them from us has zero to do with their ability to compute math. Palo Alto was really smart and did a Title V grant, and so some of their beginning stages of development came from that support. So when we first began, we knew that we intentionally wanted to create a living learning lab environment. And so everything that we're going to talk to you about is infused with a lot of different kinds of student learners. So we do the services, we provide them to meet the needs of our students, but to do that work, we employ interns from social work who are at the undergraduate and graduate level, advanced social work students. We have really terrific partnerships with University of Texas San Antonio and Our Lady of the Lake University and Texas State University, who have supported us, from the beginning and said, yes, we want to be a part of this too. We also use counseling interns. We have service learners from various programs across our campus. But those students really help us to scale this support. We have to provide a safe place for them, good bumpers so that they don't make mistakes that are pre-career enders or are problematic for the college, of course. But students are incredible inspiration to community college students who are facing the same barriers that often these students faced, and made it. They did it. And they're energetic. I don't know about you guys, but I'm 52 now, and some days I have a hard time hustling down that hallway as fast as I used to, but having that young, enthusiastic, inspirational co-partners in this work, it really helps us stay so deeply vested and inspired and encouraged, and they keep us moving forward. Across the 5 colleges, after about the second year of development for us, our board charged us with coming together and saying, so yes, we're 5 independently accredited colleges, but their goal was to have any student in the Alamo College system who went to a campus would receive the same support and same services. It was really visionary. I think it was really scary as well, but we came together. And what's cool about this work, I think, that's different than maybe some work that folks have engaged in with colleagues sometimes across the colleges, where resources are limited and you worry about, will we have enough? Can we do enough? This really inspires you, I think, to say we can't not do this. So we have such good relationships that have evolved from that cross-college brainstorming, collaborating, and the board codified into policy last year that this is an approach that we're going to do regardless moving forward, and we're all going to have a similar approach to caring for our students. And Pamela, I guess you want to cover the pre-post core services?
Yes. So prior to the COVID-19 remote services, we offered a on-site food pantry that was available to students, staff, and faculty twice a month. They would get 2 bags of food. We offered case management as well. We had a benefits navigator that would do applications for public assistance. We offered emergency assistance for rent, utilities, and we also had referrals for the community. We had a clothing closet. It's available as well to students, staff, and faculty twice a month. We offered mental and physical health services. So we have personal counselors. We have referrals for psychiatric services. We also had other services, health services that we would refer to as well. And then access to equity. So we had childcare, referrals, book vouchers. We have the transportation. We have a partnership with the VIA to have free transportation for all student, staff, and faculty. We have gas cards, emergency grant, and financial literacy programming. So all of that is what we offered before. Now that we're moving to 100% remote services, we can no longer offer our on-site food pantry. However, we partner with the San Antonio Food Bank, and they are going to be doing on-site outdoor food fairs for us. So they would be running a mobile food pantry at the different Alamo colleges. And we also have referrals to local pantries, again, partnering with the food bank. They are having a lot of pop-up food fairs to help in different communities. We will be offering emergency rental assistance and utility assistance and housing referrals over our SAC helpline. We will not have a clothing closet for the meantime, but we are offering our personal counseling and all our referrals for psychiatric services and health care services through referrals and through Zoom. So we will have Zoom counseling sessions and case management offered through Zoom, and we'll still offer all of our resources that we have offered before. So our SAC helpline is a helpline that we just launched this month that is helping across all 5 of the Alamo colleges, and that gives everyone access to the same services, to case management, which will be done by social work interns over the phone, the Zoom counseling, which will be offered at the different campuses by their counselors. And then we have the emergency fund that will be offered over the phone as well. So we're going to offer everything over the phone with the exception of the food pantry, on-site food pantry and on-site clothes closet.
There are other colleges that have phone lines as well, and I think that, the helpline is a great example of really exquisite technology that is high touch but inexpensive and can scale really quickly. LaGuardia was a college that we looked at when we were getting started with that program.
Very good, thank you.
I think the next slide is okay.
So I want to, this is Debbie again, I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about this reaching 100% remote ready. The college that I work at is an 18,000 student college. And as I mentioned earlier, we have colleges that are ranging from all sizes. So I would like for you to imagine with me for just a moment that we are 100,000 students strong in the Alamo Community College District. We have 5 presidents. We have vice chancellors that serve in the organizational structure along with our presidents. We have our chancellor, Dr. Mike Flores. We have associate vice chancellors and deans. We have all our faculty and staff. And of course, the most important thing is we have our students, 100,000 of them. And imagine going from my college as an example, approximately 15% of our students being supported fully online, remote, to reaching 100% remote readiness within, I feel like within a matter of days, and it really has been. And it's been, we can count on both hands the number of days that we have come together to work as this large organization with all these different components to say we are going to be 100% remote ready in order to support our students beginning on Monday, March 23rd. So what has happened is, you look across the different colleges, and the first thing that we had to do in higher education, I always like to joke, our former president, Jackie Clonch, I was with her and her husband one time. We were getting ready to have a new employee orientation in her home. So I was there in her kitchen and with her husband and Jack, and I was helping them to prepare as people were getting ready to show up. They could not decide. Well, let me say this, Jack was a former president of a college as well. So our president, her husband, a former president, and they could not decide which way to flow people through their kitchen. Should they come this way? Should they come that way? You know, and I'm cutting stuff. I felt like the 5-year-old in the room as they were debating as to which way to flow. And Jack turns to me and says, Debbie, pay attention to this, because this is what we do in higher education. I think we need to form a committee in order to determine which is the best way to flow people through our kitchen. And I've never forgotten that, because it was his lesson to me of don't make simple things so complex, because then when you're dealing with the complex, you will never be able to manage it. So what we had to do first and foremost is we had to let that go, disperse the authority. Put the responsibilities to go remote ready into the hands of the people that we have hired, those incredible, amazing individuals, and trust the work over to them. The subject matter experts, such as your recruiters, your advisors, the folks in testing, your student life, your student development, counseling, advocacy center, your faculty, and on and on and on. They needed to be the ones to manage and help us to get to 100% readiness. We had to take a scaffolding approach to how would we go, and we were in the midst of spring break as all of this was taking place as well, the original spring break and then now our extended spring break. So we had to look at technology. You know, do we have the resources that our faculty first and foremost need to be able to teach and make sure that the quality of instruction and the technology to do that is still in place? Do they know how to use those technologies to be able to deliver quality educational opportunities? And then are they trained to be able to have a different modality in the manner in which they are delivering? And it was the same for our student success teams. We all had to come together. We had to work fast. We had to rely on the relationships that we have developed for years, and an all hands-on approach to being able to get this done. We have what we love to term as a can-do spirit. And this COVID-19 and moving to being able to support our students 100% has seen our can-do spirit just take off, and those relationships and trust to our subject matter experts has helped us to be able to get to where we need to be. So I would ask if any of you still feel like you might not be as agile as you need to be, I would recommend that you work there, and it's important to just trust the decisions over and then support the decisions that are being made in order for us to move quickly. If we in Alamo, with 5 independently accredited colleges and 5 presidents and vice chancellors and a chancellor and a whole lot of vice presidents and deans, were able to be that agile, to be able to move to this readiness level, I want you to know that you can do it. You trust that you can do it. And if you need any assistance in that, just please reach out to us. And we'll go to the next slide. So I want to share one thing. I'm going to have Lisa speak to this, coaching your teams, but I want to share a story here if I can real quick. And I'm sorry, I'm a storyteller. So I am a product of the Alamo Community Colleges. I grew up here in San Antonio in one of the most impoverished neighborhoods in San Antonio. And it continues to be all these years later. And I had the opportunity to play volleyball, and I got a scholarship to go play at what is our oldest of our 5 colleges, St. Philip's College. And I am so glad that that's where I ended up, because I was needing a lot of support from my family and needed to stay home close by, et cetera, et cetera. And I had a chance to play volleyball. And I had this coach that had never played volleyball in her life. She was from India, and she came to the United States, and she had the credentials to be a faculty member at St. Philip's and be a swim coach or a swim teacher. And they also asked that she would take on the volleyball coaching responsibilities. And so she bought a book and she started reading. And then this is what she realized. She needed to go find somebody that really knew what they were doing so that she could watch them and she could model. And she drove down to Houston, Texas, and there was a gal named Ruth Nelson who was the volleyball coach. And Ruth Nelson, as it turns out, was the Olympic volleyball coach. And so Gould Castleberry started spending her summers in Ruth Nelson's camps. And she brought everything that she learned, even though she had never played volleyball ever. She brought what she learned to St. Philip's College, and she started teaching students like myself, young Hispanic gals that were rebellious and rambunctious, and helped to form us into these mature individuals, and taught us the game, but more so she taught us the game of life. And what has helped us in this remote readiness transition is I was taught to practice, practice, practice. You practice harder than you would ever play the game. So if you needed to jump, you needed a 40-inch vertical jump. You needed to have a 42 in practice. If you needed to run a mile in the game, you need to run 10 miles in practice. If you needed to whatever, you would do 2 and 3 and 4 times more in practice. So practice is called practice because that's when you get better and better and better. And we would see ourselves get better every day. And then she taught us that the reason why you practice is so that then you can go play. So when we're watching our teams, we're watching them play the game. We're not watching them in a practice because the practice has already taken place. So if you want to go to 100% remote ready by March 23rd, we have been practicing that every single day. Our teams have been remote. They have been given the opportunity to stay at home. They've been testing their technology. They've been practicing with one another. And I wanted them to feel like they had already done the heavy lifting so that on Monday, the 23rd, they can play. They can get out there and they can demonstrate that they're students, that they did their homework and they practice hard in long hours and they asked hard questions. And now I believe that we are going to be 100% ready. So practice hard and play.
I think that Debbie, the story really does illustrate the way we approached it here in the Alamo colleges. But I think what Debbie did for us really is model those expectations by creating that practice environment. So every time we meet with her, it's through Zoom. Even if I'm in the same building with somebody, she really forced us to start practicing this Zoom technology with one another. And breaking bad habits really is this idea that's a lot of times we have so much thrown at us as college employees that, you know, we get a PDF or an explanation on how something's going to work. And yeah, I'll get to it. But breaking the bad habit was forcing us to be vulnerable to each other, to practice those things together. Pamela can tell you, you know, she sent her therapist home so that they could practice from home to see how that technology could work when they were conducting a session. So using those business needs while this, you know, this train is moving, to practice that communication and connecting with each other so that when we do it with students, it really works smoothly. Won't be perfect, right? And then all the colleges did this a slightly different way, but creating a debugging session. Debbie hosted a very large meeting yesterday that was upwards of probably 100 people, where questions were answered. People were able to say, these are the bits and pieces that still aren't working. And having some backup to fixing those things before you send everybody away. If you've already had to do that, I mean, there are still processes, I think, that you can use that group problem solving to figure out what can work if that's not working. And then I think as leaders, and some leaders are better at this than others, but the reality is being able to model comfort with ambivalence when things aren't really clear is very important. And when you think about higher education and, you know, how we're sort of supposed to have the answers, sometimes that can be an uncomfortable place for folks who haven't had to swim in those waters. But being able to show that it's okay if we don't have everything figured out day one or hour one, but that we're moving toward that process, I think it's critical to let people sort of relax and dismiss some of their anxieties as best we can. If you want to go to the next slide. So one of the things that has come up for everybody, and there were, I think, some questions already in the chat, and I've been hearing my colleagues across our colleges and in other cities talk about this, you know, how do we manage privacy issues? What I love about where I see policy moving is this idea that we've got to be really brave and move forward with expedience now more than ever. And I think Cara did a good job of sort of striking a real clear picture of the challenges that are, if it's tough for us, imagine what a student who is living in poverty is experiencing. And I think sometimes it's hard to push teams, and the balance has to be not getting stuck, right? You want to be cautious, you want to think through, and I think that's one of the beauties of having our cross-college committee, the SME work, is that if I don't think of it, then Delilah Marquez at PAC is going to think of it. And if Delilah didn't think about it, then Tracy Floyd at NLC. Sharing each other's brains and coming at these problems, these complex problems together really helps us be anticipatory. And, you know, I believe this work, this student advocacy work, more than any work that I've experienced in the college environment, helps set aside some of the past, you know, struggles or rivalries that you might have, or, you know, and it's all about scarcity, isn't it? Not just for our students, but for us, having enough to do the work that you're required to do. I did put a link in there. One of our therapists, Rhonda O'Connor at PAC, found a great telehealth training. It's an hour and a half. That if you're interested, helps with that, address that modality issue. So it's not just about, can I function in the platform, but do I feel comfortable delivering in this modality? I just thought that would be a nice thing to share. And then addressing how do the students, if you want to go to the next slide, addressing what we tell the students in an environment where things are changing so quickly. You know, depending on your size, you might not have an army of people that can constantly be looking for resources, or have the ability to do the work of connecting with a student and do that work as well. So we took sort of a tiered approach to this. One is the students need to know what your resources are, and you may need to define that to them, because where you have the benefit of them being able to walk to your building and engage one of your staff in the past, that's not your current reality. So we defined what our core remote services were so that it would be clear. Our delivery, how we're going to talk to the students, providing them a phone number that they can reach out to, the email address, and then getting them comfortable with whatever your video platform is going to be. And then the second thing is broad resources. And I looked at the tax site, and you guys have Texas 211 listed. It's a tremendous resource. And if you've ever worked disaster, you know what's happening in those centers right now. Their resources change by the hour. Resources get added, or resources get shifted, or resources get taken away. I don't want to become a 211 center in this moment. I want to be good at the work that I'm doing, but I want to rely on them because it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they do such a phenomenal job really making those connections when things are changing fast. Your local food bank, of course, is an important resource. Make sure that you include your mental health authority. Each county has one, but you have crisis resources that are available. And I believe that Cara provided in the chat to you guys the information on the texting hotline. We struggled with how many links to provide around COVID. We stuck with what our city is doing. We feel like we don't want to be experts in medical information and resources, but we think they are. And so we really limited that resource information to this specialized, limited scope. And then every day we have a communication plan on what resource we're going to highlight for that day. And it's, we took a hierarchy approach. We want to first address how do your kids get food. We want mental health crises to be addressed, housing evictions. I'm sure your cities are doing similar actions where they're shutting down the eviction process for now. The local utility companies are not going to disconnect. I want to warn, Cara said it earlier, but I want to just say again, emphasize, that doesn't mean that our emergency aid processes can stop, because it's great if we stop the eviction or we stop the disconnect from the utilities, but a $400 bill will turn into an $800 bill over a 2-month period, and then there's a whole much bigger problem. So I don't want to lose sight that bill is still going to need to be paid eventually. Okay, next slide. And then Pam will talk to you about how we're going to connect students to our services through faculty and staff.
Okay, so currently we didn't have a very good referral system because we were operating as one college. So we would refer internally through college, but now that we've launched this helpline and we're now operating it across all 5 of the Alamo colleges, we were trying to figure out a good way for referrals. So we considered using what we already have in place. So we have Maxient, which we would use for our behavioral intervention teams. We changed the format, and now we have a way to communicate with all 5 of the Alamo colleges through this referral system. So each campus has their point of contact person, and when we do a referral, it's going to get sent out to everyone, but more importantly to the right people. This is communication that's going to go across all of our 5 Alamo colleges, and it's a way for us to expand our services. So the helpline is going to be one point of contact for all of the advocacy centers, and the people who answer the phones are all trained in, they're all staff members, and they're all trained in these systems. So this is just a good way for us to provide more services.
I want to just emphasize that the faculty have their hands full going online. Not all of them, of course, but some. And they're going to be focused on their core mission. Advisors who are now functioning remote, they're going to be focused on their core mission. Having a vehicle where they can quickly make a referral and say, you know, I'm really worried about this student, they are running out of food, or I'm worried about this student, they're concerned about their health. Being able for them to park that referral and get it to us quickly so that we can act on it is very important. And I think that nobody can focus on school until the big stuff that lives close to your heart and your home are managed. So we have to really step in, I think, and provide that space so that the faculty can dismiss that issue to us. We'll act on it. We'll take that charge and the lead, and then they can focus on their teaching. Same with advising in other areas of the college. And Debbie, you may want to speak to repurposing of staff to support those efforts.
Right. So we have all of our student workers. Of course, we have them all not having to report to work, and they're getting paid according to what they would normally be getting paid based on their hours. And so now we have all of our full-time staff and our part-time staff, and we have a very clear charge from Dr. Flores, our chancellor, and our president, that we want to bring everybody to the core of our work. And so the first level of support is making sure that our currently enrolled students can successfully complete their courses. They have the opportunity, if it's applied studies, applied science, the practicums, the interns, the lecture-based, the labs, all of those programs, they've been going through their remote readiness in order to deliver their teaching and learning online. And they've been working through the different things, or like the one-offs, to make sure that all of our students have the opportunity to be successful in the classroom. Number 2 is the support, academic and student support services to the core, which would be primarily our advising services, our libraries, our tutoring, the kinds of support that we need to give to our students to make sure that they're successful in class, and then they have the resources that they need out of the class to include the things that we've been talking about today. And then 3rd is to continue our outreach efforts on the onboarding and the bringing in of our new students. The Alamo colleges, we are in our first year of our Alamo Promise program, which is offering courses to students that are in designated high schools in San Antonio with no tuition and fees. So we've been ramping up to be able to onboard and welcome those students to our colleges. We don't want that momentum to slow down. So even while the high schools are on that suspended, the way all of us are, kind of in that suspended and on hold as far as coming to their high schools, we are going to follow right behind their messaging and continue to make sure that they're hearing from us and that we're still ready for them and ready to support them remotely. And then all of our wraparound services. So when we bring everybody to the core, that means we're not only looking at, do we have the technology? Yes. Can our employees use the technology? Yes. Can they do their jobs at a distance? Most. The ones that cannot are probably going to be the ones that we are repurposing. As an example, if I had a coach that was responsible for intramural events or the club sports, and we've suspended all of those, then we're going to take that coach, and yes, he has the technology, she has the technology, and she can use the systems, but she is not going to be coaching. She may be helping with tier 1 phone calls. She may be chatting. He may be receiving emails. So they're in the process of repurposing, and we're bringing everybody to the core. Let me tell you, the way this has been responded is the best professional development and resume building any of them have ever had. They're so excited about this opportunity. They don't like the reason why we're having to do it, but they're all hands-on, and absolutely, man, you put me wherever you need me to be, and it's all good for everybody. And so everybody is all in on this.
I think that's it, Christy, for us.
All right, thank you. So we do have some questions, some of which were answered by one presenter, and I wanted to give some of the other presenters a chance to also address those. So one question was, I understand the governor's office has approved small group meetings of no more than 10. Will you be holding meetings for applied skills classes? And so Cara responded on behalf of Amarillo. For those of you at Alamo, would you like to address that question? So will you be holding meetings for applied skills classes?
And this is Debbie. Thank you for that question. We are planning 100% remote readiness. So the work that has been given to us is to take every situation, whether it's a lecture class, a lab class, an applied science class where they have internships and practicums and more of that applied learning, to take each of those and get them remote ready. We do know that there's going to be some pockets that will be addressed individually. The goal is that all of our students have the opportunity to complete their requirements for their courses, to be able to graduate on time, to be able to earn their grades. So the answer is yes, we are planning to still hold those courses, but remotely, because we really are trying to embrace the 100% remote.
Thank you. We know that often faculty are involved in the referral process, and Alamo, you talked some about how that happens and how you're continuing referrals. Have you had increased interest from faculty and staff now that they realize just the gravity of this situation, and how are you incorporating them into your efforts as you go remote?
I think that, and then Cara, I'm sure you have an awesome plan, but I'll just say real quickly, I don't think that faculty and staff, because we start on Monday full remote, and they have been underwater figuring out their own mousetraps. I think that what we have to do is anticipate the need. So I can't really tell you the shift in them. What I can tell you is that they're not prepared for the kinds of questions that they're going to get from students. So we are trying to be sort of proactive and put ourselves in a position where they have a place that that question can land. I think people are distressed in ways that we've not experienced before. I have former students reaching out to me by Facebook and on my cell phone who really aren't asking me anything. It's almost like they just need a touchstone. I think we all need a touchstone right now. So I can't say for sure how it's going to look. I can tell you as a 25-year veteran social worker, I'm anticipating it's going to be a lot.
Okay, and we have a follow-up question about the remote learning. So how are they going to hold labs, the skills intensive labs remotely? Do you know any of the concrete steps they're taking to conduct those labs?
I don't have the specific, this is Debbie. I don't have the specifics. I'm actually in contact with our Vice President for Academic Success. Out here at Northwest Vista College, we have it covered based on the workforce programs and applied science programs that we offer. But I do know that with some of our sister colleges, it's a little bit more difficult. As an example, we have a fire science program at San Antonio College. And some of those that it is much more difficult to recreate the experience that the students are going to need to have. So I wish I could give you a detailed answer other than the faculty and the deans and the vice presidents for academic success are working the individual programs that have unique requirements and unique needs.
This is Cara. Same for us. Dr. Tamara Clunas is our Vice President of Academic Affairs, and she is working with faculty on developing the skills labs. And so for us, we know that there are certain courses, the programs that are going to have on site. And so I answered that question. But what we're going to do is space out students. So we're going to predefine when they come into the spaces so that we can keep it under 10, so we can space out students within 6 feet to meet the CDC guidelines. But they are going to have to come on site, and we understand that. So we're taking a lot of precautions, particularly with how we're ramping up cleaning to support them. I also want to circle back to the question about how faculty can connect. We are a Aleutian colleague school, and we have a retention alert, early alert system. And we had set up prior to COVID-19 where our faculty could send an alert to our social workers for any student that needs assistance. All of that is already electronically based. Our faculty are well versed in how they can connect our students to the ARC. And so we know that's going to ramp up, and we're fully prepared for how we can assist students through the ARC. But I would look at systems that y'all have in place where faculty can connect your students to your social workers or some social connect system electronically, and for us, Retention Alert has done that.
Thank you. Okay, if anybody has any additional questions, please go ahead and put those into the Q&A block. And as we are wrapping up, I'll mention that we talked about some resources today that are not yet on the Texas Success Center site, and I will add those immediately following this webinar. I'll also post the slides and the recording after that process is a little bit later this afternoon. So as we wrap up here, I do want to say a big thanks to all of our presenters. We really appreciate your time, and to our audience members, we appreciate your time as well. Thank you for being here with us, and we hope that you learned something valuable that you can apply at your institutions. We do have a webinar coming up next Friday on supporting students in times of crisis. So this webinar focuses on interactions with students rather than college processes. So looking at a similar topic from a different angle, and this is presented by our partners at Inside Track, and we'll be sending a notification about this webinar later on today, and it is already listed on our events page. So thank you all so much. We appreciate your time and attention, and if you have any other resources that you would like to add to our page to share across the state, then please do email those to me. Have a great Friday and a good weekend.
Thank you, Christy. Thank you, Cara. Thank you, Lisa and Pam.
Thank you all.
Got it. Thanks.
Luck to
Thank you,
everybody.
everyone.
Everybody be safe.
Yes, have a good day. Bye.
Bye.